And there we go. Before we begin, we wish to acknowledge that this land that we're on brings with it a rich history, including a myriad of songs and stories that have been told over many years. From where we speak, we're on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, land that is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We kindly remind you to please take a moment to reflect as we acknowledge the ways in which the legacy of colonization continues to impact Indigenous peoples in all aspects of society, and that much work is still to be done to remedy these wrongs. My name is Michelle Holzgener, and I will be joined today by my colleague, Ward Dutz. We are two of the Ontario Music Office's 3 program consultants. Ward and I will be co-presenting today on the OMIF's Music Industry Initiatives Global Market Development for Music Managers stream. That's quite the mouthful. I'd also like to acknowledge our colleague, Noah Grunier, who will be running the session this morning. We will be keeping our cameras off for the presentation, but we'll turn them back on for the Q&A portion at the end. In order to best manage the Q&A period, we ask that you please type your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom anytime during the presentation, and we will filter through the list at the end. Please keep your questions as relevant to the overall audience as possible. For questions that are really unique or very specific to your company, we ask that you follow up with us after the webinar so we can provide a more tailored response to your particular situation. If a question comes to you after the session, that is absolutely fine. You can always contact us later by phone or email. We will be posting this presentation, the recorded version of it, on the MII Global Market Development page of our website for your reference. But we must reiterate the importance of reviewing the guidelines in detail. This slide deck does not replace the guidelines. Ontario Creates is an agency of the Government of Ontario, which is funded by the Ministry of Heritage, Tourism, Sport and Culture Industries. The agency's key objective is to facilitate economic development, investment, and collaboration in Ontario's creative industries, including the music, book, magazine, film, television, and interactive digital media sectors. Ontario's entertainment and creative industries are responsible for contributing $17 billion to the province's economy annually and generating nearly 215,000 jobs. Furthermore, Ontario's sound recording and music publishing industry is by far the largest in Canada, which I'm sure you're all aware, with nearly 80% of the country's music production and distribution operating revenues being generated here. The Ontario Music Office provides funding and business development support to Ontario's music industry through the Ontario Music Investment Fund, Acceleration, which is a time-limited program focused on emerging Black and Indigenous-owned music businesses, as well as various strategic B2B initiatives. The OMO team is comprised of a director, 3 program consultants, 2 program coordinators, and a senior financial officer. In 2021, the OMIF, the Ontario Music Investment Fund, replaced the former Ontario Music Fund and reflects current government objectives. Broadly, the OMIF is intended to provide targeted economic development investment to the province's vibrant and diverse music industry, with a strong focus on supporting company and industry growth, as well as developing emerging artists. The program's 3 streams, listed below, are tailored to different parts of the industry. The OMIF has a few key goals that are really important to keep in mind when you're preparing your application. The program itself is focused on supporting high potential music companies and investing in their long-term growth, while maximizing ROI for the province and increasing opportunities for emerging talent by targeting support at critical stages of artists' career. Some anticipate outcomes include creating jobs, increasing revenue, profits, and private investment in the province, developing content or intellectual property for domestic and international markets that will lead to sustained revenues and jobs in the province. There's a theme here. And increasing Ontario's profile by increasing Ontario's profile internationally by helping to support the discovery and development of breakthrough artists. As the OMIT is designed to support companies across the music ecosystem in Ontario, the three programs themselves support different parts of the industry. The music creation stream is focused on supporting music companies that take risks in developing talent and bringing it to market through activities like recording, marketing, promotion, touring, publishing, etc. The first deadline for this stream was last week, actually. The second deadline is September 15th. The live music stream is focused on supporting live music companies that promote and present music events featuring Canadian artists, including music festivals and concert series. This stream will launch late August with the deadline of October 20th. The Music Industry Initiative stream is focused on supporting music trade associations and music service organizations for activities that have a broad music industry benefit, such as professional development and training initiatives, export activities, showcasing, industry analysis, data gathering, and activities that build regional capacity. This program has a continuous intake until October 27th. And for any of you that may be interested, there is an info session presented by Ward and myself this afternoon. As you are obviously aware, this stream also has a distinct program providing export and market development funding for music management companies. The Global Market Development for Music Managers program supports participation in international and national activities that correspond to a strategy for company growth. It is also the focus of today's session. I'd like to make one note here. For those of you who operate a hybrid label management model within the same incorporated entity, we ask that you please contact us at least 2 weeks ahead of the deadline to discuss the potential of including your export travel costs for the management component of your company within your music creation application, should you be submitting one. So that falls under, we can talk about that at the end, or you can contact us directly about how that may look if you do have a hybrid company. We also ask that you please review our program policies document for more specifics on our policies regarding respectful workplaces, diversity, and accessibility. There is a link to this document on page 2 of the program guidelines. It can also be downloaded directly from the GMD page on our website. All applicants must sign an applicant affidavit confirming that their company has both the guiding principles and a process for maintaining a respectful workplace, one that values diversity and inclusion, dignity, courteous conduct, fairness, positive communication, and professional working relationships that are free from harassment and discrimination. The program policies document also outlines some key information regarding the application submission process, reporting requirements, and other obligations of successful applicants. It also contains a full sample agreement for your review. Ontario Creates is committed to helping tangibly increase diversity, equity, and inclusion within the creative industries. Our agency values and supports diversity and gender parity at all levels and business roles. We acknowledge that many communities continue to face systemic barriers that prevent them from participating meaningfully in these industries. As such, Ontario Creates applies a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion across multiple evaluation criteria for our programs. Ward will touch on that a bit more later in the presentation during the application assessment section. Applicants proposing activities that support reflect and strengthen diversity and gender parity in Ontario are also expected to tangibly demonstrate a genuine and sustained commitment to these equity-seeking communities. Successful applicants will be expected to report on the progress of their commitments. And further, Ontario Creates encourages applications from companies that are led by Black and Indigenous individuals, people of color, Francophone individuals, and applicants that otherwise meet the provincial definition of diversity, which you will find on page 2 of the program policies document. Exceptions to the program's eligibility requirements may be considered for applications from high potential companies among communities that are underrepresented and have been systemically excluded based on factors such as disability, sexual orientation, transgender status, gender, and race. We encourage stakeholders from any of these communities to reach out to us to discuss. And with that, I will pass it over to Ward to get into the specifics of the program.
Thanks, Michelle. So please review page 4 of the guidelines for the detailed explanation of the eligibility requirements, but the key points are outlined here. All eligible applicants must have a minimum revenue of $25,000 from core business activities, have a permanent establishment in Ontario which serves as a head office and base of operations, i.e. applicant is eligible to pay corporate income taxes in Ontario and Ontario address is listed as the head office in the T2 filings, and be able to demonstrate that they have a permanent establishment in Ontario for at least 1 year prior to the deadline. Have key management personnel who are Canadian citizens or permanent residents living in Ontario and be in good standing with Ontario Creates at the time of the application. And first-time applicants are strongly encouraged to contact the Ontario Music Office a minimum of 2 weeks ahead of the application deadline to discuss eligibility. And by contact, we mean engage with us as we want to make sure that, in fact, you're eligible. Also, I also like the opportunity to guide you so you'll be able to submit the strongest application possible. Applicants that fail to do so may have their application deemed ineligible or incomplete if eligibility is not clearly established in the application. In addition to the applicable requirements listed on the previous slide, these are specific eligibility requirements for music management companies. Applicants must be managing 2 or more artists, although exceptions may apply to managers with 1 artist if the artist's career is at an advanced international level. 50% of your roster must be Canadian, and at least 1 artist must have a commercial release within the last 24 months. In terms of what we consider to be core business activities for a music manager, we are looking at your operational focus and revenue being generated by guiding artists' careers, by overseeing day-to-day business affairs, advising and counseling artists, and engaging in marketing and promotion. And as Michelle mentioned, exceptions to the eligibility requirements may be considered for BIPOC or Francophone applicants. The OMIF contribution may not exceed 50% of the total budget, and the maximum funding request is $10,000, which means we'll match your eligible and approved costs dollar for dollar. Applicants in this stream must apply by the deadline of Thursday, June the 16th at 5 p.m. The eligibility activity window is August 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2023. The goal of the program is to support export and market development activities such as attendance at key industry markets and events, planned sales and business trips to key territories, and participation in trade missions. Activities supported in this program must contribute to your business and market development goals related to both artist and company growth. Specific costs include travel costs, accommodations, market costs, including registration and other participation expenses, per diems, and marketing costs, including design, production, and shipping materials related to the proposed activities. The application is only available through Ontario Creates online application portal. If you're not registered with a corporate profile, we encourage you to set one up as soon as possible. You can start this process by going to the online portal URL listed on this page. OAP instructions can be found on the MII GMD page of our website as well. We'll just give you a quick overview of the application. In section 1, company information requires basic company and contact information. In section 2, company details request the organization to provide information such as ownership and key management personnel. Under financial profile, you'll be asked for the company's total revenue for the past 2 fiscal years. Next, under company profile, we ask you to provide a company overview including industry experience, profile of key individuals, critical and commercial successes, present and previous global market engagement, and any other relevant achievements. This includes a maximum word count of 1,500 words. Also under company profile, you'll be asked for an outline of your overall global market development plan and how it relates to your company's strategy for growth. Please be clear, succinct, and high level. The word count for this response is 1,000 words. The last part of section 2, you'll are asked questions pertaining to your artist roster. And this is how many artists are on your roster. Please list key artists and the percentage of Canadian artists. Finally, list one Canadian artist recording released within the last 24 months. You'll be asked for the artist, title, and the release date. In section 3, you are requested to input the activity name and the activity type. If it is a business, conference, festival, trade show, or other, you have the opportunity to elaborate on your initiative in the supplementary action plans. A reminder that you can only submit a maximum of 5 activities, and 1 trip equals an activity. In section 4, you must acknowledge that your organization either has or will be able to obtain at least $2 million in commercial general liability insurance coverage before the legal grant agreement can be executed. Please note that this is now only an acknowledgement at the application stage. Successful applicants will still be required to provide a certificate of insurance at the time of contract execution. And finally, section 5, the supporting documents. The activity budget template will be discussed on the next slide. The activity plan consists of 4 questions. Question 1 asks for a detailed description of the activity. If the activity is part of a broader initiative, describe the larger initiative and indicate how the activity fits with the company's goals and market development. Question 2, does the company have a history participating in this event activity? If so, please provide past detailed results. Question 3 asks, provide a list of potential and confirmed business meetings and/or contacts that are scheduled for this activity. And then when I state that, be specific. Indicate the person's name, title, company that they're at. Question 4 asks, outline projected results and indicate any background research that supports why the activity will be successful. This could be industry trends, competitive analysis, revenue targets. Next, you'll be asked for your articles of incorporation. Then, we're asked to provide financial statements. While optional, corporate financial statements for the past 2 most recently completed fiscal years are requested. Financial statements should be supplied within 6 months following the end of the company's fiscal year. Notice to reader or compilation engagement report financial statements are preferred. However, internally prepared statements will be accepted. And again, this is optional. Next, please sign and submit an applicant affidavit confirming that the applicant has both the guiding principles and a process for maintaining a respectful workplace. This needs to be signed by your company signing officer. And lastly, other applicable materials relevant to the activities that you would like to submit to strengthen your application, such as artist profiles, letters of support, business plans, marketing communications plans, company budgets, etc. Again, you're no under any obligation to submit them. However, the optional ones that I just listed may strengthen your application. Now, the activity budget template is quite simple. We don't require a financing plan for this stream. Pictured here is the activity budget. You simply need to complete the applicable sections which relate directly to eligible costs. and totals are auto-calculated and appear in the budget summary. And here is the budget summary. All you need to do in this tab is complete your company name and your total funding request to a maximum of $10,000. And just a reminder, you are limited to 5 activities in total. Now to the assessment criteria. Please refer to pages 6 and 7 of the guidelines for the outline of our assessment criteria. This is exactly what we take into consideration when assessing your application. So it certainly can't hurt to review this section of the guidelines more than once. The first criteria, track record. It's worth 30%. Does your organization demonstrate that it has organizational and financial capacity to effectively execute the activities? What are your previous successes? How present is diversity among senior leadership, staff, or contract employees? Next, overall proposal, and that's worth 25%. Is the proposal thorough, well-written, and practical? Are your proposed activities and budget feasible, appropriate, and achievable? Have you included additional documentation to help build your business case for OMIF support? And does your proposal demonstrate thoughtful consultation, collaboration, and participation of equity-seeking communities? Next is economic and cultural impact, and it's worth 25%. Are the expected results well documented in the application, including a description of tangible, measurable, and realistic goals, and a clear explanation of anticipated return on investment? Describe the potential to achieve measurable, critical, and/or commercial success of your artists. Next, sustainability. Does your proposal demonstrate forward-thinking strategic planning, and do the activities position your company for long-term growth and sustainability? And lastly, emerging artists. To what degree does your application focus on supporting and developing emerging artists on your roster? Keep these questions in mind as you're crafting your application, because all of these assessment criteria tie back to the project objectives or program objectives. Applications that speak direct to these objectives will rank higher than those who do not. You'll note that the diversity, equity, and inclusion criteria are embedded across multiple assessment sections. Within your application, particularly in activity descriptions, please ensure you speak to any tangible initiatives that your company has already undertaken or plans to undertake with respect to improving or further embedding DE&I within your operations and activities. Applicant companies that are owned by or led by members of equity-seeking communities may, if appropriate or relevant, choose to speak to their lived experiences as it relates to their operations. This shift is a reflection of an intentional intent to lead more BIPOC-owned companies being focused, as well as encouraging all companies to take further steps towards increasing diversity among their staff, artist roster, and operational practices in order to achieve greater representation of equity-seeking communities. These are broader program objectives that we trust will lead to a more diverse and equitable music industry. The integrated approach places more emphasis on DE&I across the board rather than having a separate value, and underscores our expectation that should be upfront consideration for companies across various criteria. And with this approach, it carries more weight in the scoring process. Ultimately, applicants that best demonstrate DE&I across the board will score higher than those who don't. I want to remind you that it's a competitive process, and the number of applicants who are receiving funding and the amount of funding received is dependent on the quality of the application submitted and the individual needs of each applicant. And now I'm going to turn it back to Michelle, who's going to provide some helpful tips.
Thanks, Ward. And finally, we wanted to leave you with a few suggestions to help encourage your highest possible chance for success. There is a more in-depth grant writing tips document that you can download directly from the GMD page on the Ontario Creates website, should you want to dive in a bit deeper. Number one, which is actually 2 in 1. Start well in advance and read the guidelines and applications requirements thoroughly. You may also want to ensure that your business and your activities are both eligible and a strong fit for the program. 2, sell your unique and competitive business case. The OMIF is a comparative and competitive program, so it's important that you state in your application how your business stands out from the crowd. We have limited funding available, and sometimes it's not just a matter of qualifying, it's a matter of really demonstrating why your company is worthy of support over another one. Don't underestimate the importance of providing support material. Ward has already touched on this. Include relevant documents such as letters of support, market research, sales history, artist profiles. That's really important, actually. Supplier quotes, press clippings, etc. This material helps you build your business case. It adds credibility and strengthens your overall application. Don't assume anything. So even if we've had a conversation prior to the deadline, don't assume that we know who you are or what you do. We are only able to assess the material that has been submitted in your application. So please make sure to include it all there. And finally, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. The Ontario Music Office is here to help. If you need clarification or have any questions about eligibility, proposed activities, etc., please contact us and we will do what we can to assist. It sounds odd to say this, but your success is our success. So if we're able to help you submit a stronger application, we're very happy to do it. And with that, our presentation is concluded.